Hello, my name is Josh Heckman, and I am currently a junior at Georgetown University in the college. I've been a part of SOA, Sustainable Oceans Alliance, for 2 years now, and was a part of the inaugural summit, in which Dr. Earle was a guest speaker. And now I want to introduce Dr. Sylvia Earle. She is a National Geographic explorer and legendary oceanographer. She led the first expedition of women aquanauts off the Virgin Islands in 1970. Dived solo to 1,000-meter depths, and has logged more than 7,000 hours underwater. Dr. Earle was also the first female chief scientist of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and was nominated as the first hero of the planet by Time in 1998. Earle received the TED Prize in 2009, and her wish was that we would identify and protect a network of hope spots to restore our ocean. Ocean protections have expanded dramatically in the last 7 years, in large part due to Sylvia Earle's efforts through Mission Blue, the Sylvia Earle Alliance, and National Geographic. Thank you for joining us, Sylvia. It's an honor to have you here.
It's great to be on board.
So this is the second time in less than 2 years that you've spoken at Georgetown University addressing a youth summit conservation or issues in ocean conservation. Why do you believe it is so important to include youth in the conversation about marine conservation?
Well, we're all in this together, for one thing. And whatever happens now is going to have a magnified impact on what remains, not just of the 21st century, but everything that follows. So kids have a vested interest in shaping the future. It's not good enough to let the people who have obvious positions of power to just make decisions without the input of those who have to live in the decades that are coming along. Because either we will shift gears. Throughout my lifetime, we've learned more at the same time that we've lost more. We've seen this technological revolution, the explosion of human population, which looks like amazing prosperity, but there's been a cost that we haven't accounted for. While our numbers have gone like this, the numbers of the other creatures on the planet have gone like this, whether we're talking trees or fish or bears or wolves or whatever it is. We have consumed nature, but there's a limit to how much we can draw down of the natural world. And the good news is, right now, early in the 21st century, the kids are the beneficiaries of what we've learned about our capacity not only to destroy, but why nature matters, because it sets Earth apart from every other place in the universe. And why nature matters, why trees matter, why keeping coral reefs, and even why maintaining fish populations alive, not just on our plates, but their role in maintaining a planet that works in our favor. So it's this juncture in time that kids are coming along armed with this awareness that unless we take action now, their future and everything that follows is at risk. So you have to involve kids. Why wouldn't you?
Absolutely. And so to get into a little of international politics and how they play into the protection of oceans. Last week, the presidents of Colombia, Ecuador, and Costa Rica came together to announce expanded protection in adjacent waters. International partnerships will be necessary to achieve UN and other ocean conservation goals. So what challenges and opportunities does this pose?
Well, now we know what was not so obvious when I was a kid, that anything done anywhere in a positive way benefits everyone, everywhere. Yeah? At the same time, any damage anywhere, there's a cost to that, to everyone. Everything is connected. It was harder to see when we did not have that view of Earth from space, or when we did not have instant communication from one side of the world to the other, to see the damage inflicted by wars or an oil spill that contaminates one part of the ocean. Ultimately, it degrades the whole system. So it's obvious that nations around the world have benefits if we pull together to have to work together, whether it's the air, the water, or the fabric of life itself.
Yeah, I think it's very important. And also last week, you mentioned earlier in your talk this afternoon that you got to walk down a beach and thank President Obama for protecting the Northwest Hawaiian Islands.
Papahanaumokuakea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're much better at pronouncing that than I would have attempted to.
I've been practicing.
So that then became the largest reserve ever. And at the IUCN Congress, there was widespread support for protecting 30% of the ocean by 2050. Are we at a turning point for marine conservation, or is there still a lot of work to go?
Still a lot of work to do, for sure. Even with that wonderful designation of waters around the northwestern Hawaiian Islands, expanding what President George W. Bush did in his administration, which at the time was the biggest marine protected area in the world, it's still, we're looking at less than 3% of the ocean where even the fish are safe. We have acquired this habit of consuming wildlife from the ocean and treating wildlife as commodities. We used to do it with whales, we used to do it with birds. The Lewis and Clark expedition in the 1800s, it was about killing animals for their fur. We valued them as commercial products. Well, we kind of outgrown that. We see other values to birds, to wolves, to everything terrestrial, and whales. It wasn't that long ago that whales were primarily valued for barrels of oil and pounds of meat, or ground up, even their bones were consumed. But since the 1980s, the commercial extraction of whales globally has almost stopped. There are a few countries who still take whales commercially, but the results have been that most of the whale species have begun to recover, those that were taken commercially. There's still a problem with dolphins, and there are other things that we are doing to the ocean, like competing with them for food, whether it's krill in Antarctica or salmon in the Great Northwest with the orcas or other marine mammals. But what I'm saying is that our attitudes have changed. We have the capacity, once we know and once we see things differently, we can make different choices. And we have to do that with ocean wildlife across the board. Krill in Antarctica represent the cornerstone of that whole system. Their sunlight powers phytoplankton, capturing carbon, generating oxygen, and sequestering carbon in the great ocean food webs. It goes from phytoplankton to zooplankton. Krill could be classified as part of the zooplankton, to little fish, to big fish, directly to whales, or directly to seals, directly to birds, all part of the carbon cycle, all part of, I love this word, every little kid should master the biogeochemical cycles that make the world a hospitable place for humankind. We don't have biogeochemical cycles, as far as we know, anywhere else in the universe. We might have geo, we might have chemical, but the bio part is unique to Earth. And that's what keeps us alive. The bio part, it's not just rocks and water. And somewhere along the line, in fact, it should start when you're first born. Respect nature. Respect the bio part. We might set up housekeeping on Mars or the moon or Jupiter, but not without being mindful of life that keeps us alive. We don't photosynthesize. I mean, I sometimes wish I could go green and stand out in the sun and just, who needs to eat? You power yourself like plants do. But we're animals, and so we have to eat plants or animals. We have to eat other forms of life. And so knowing it's not just food, it's taken 4.5 billion years of fine-tuning to get a planet that works in our favor. It's taking us decades with 7 billion people with technologies that are unlike anything that the planet has known before. The ability to clear-cut forests, to clear-cut the ocean, to contaminate the whole atmosphere, to contaminate the waters of the world. And it's not taking us millions of years or thousands of years, it's taking us tens of years to have this terrible impact on the nature of nature. But knowing is the key. Knowing that plastics don't degrade, every bit of plastic ever made, and all of it's been made, most of it's been made since 1950. No plastics in the ocean, no bags or styrofoam cups, or it's everywhere now, even in the deep sea. It just rains down, and it's so stable chemically, the variations on the theme of plastic, that even at the micro level, it's still in the ocean, and it comes back to us. But it's coming back to the birds, to the fish, to the squid, to the oysters, to the clams. It's changing the chemistry of the ocean. So what do we do about it? Well, first you should know about it, and then you can do something about it.
And just following with the IUCN Congress, I've heard that country representatives were prepared to be complacent and to see 30% protection of these marine protected areas for the oceans. But E.O. Wilson stood up, and us followed by others, and of course yourself, and said that, no, we need 50%. Do you think that 50% is a logical goal or a logical idea going forward? And if not 50, do you think we could even establish more in the future?
Well, the concept of half Earth is brilliant in that it causes people to wake up. Like, oh, half Earth. Half for nature. It doesn't give us license to take the other half and just destroy it, however. Say you protect half of the ocean. That means you can take and just eliminate life from the other half. It doesn't work that way. We need not just Earth, all of it, but to accommodate our lifestyle the way maybe all 7 billion people would like to have the same benefits and quality of life that a few countries have, including the United States, and, well, other countries are elevating too, but the cost of that, some say it would take 5 Earths, complete, not half of the Earth, to support not just 7 billion people with a quality of life that everyone aspires to, but, you know, where are we going with this? I think we need to respect all of it. And Nainoa Thompson, who's the great navigator, explorer, and present at a very important presence at the IUCN conference and also at the Ocean Conference here in Washington, just saying we have to respect the ocean as the cornerstone of our life support. We have to respect all of nature. Now, like every other animal, we will use nature. We have to. We have to, you know, place to live, water to drink, food, all the rest. But to do it with respect, to do it with care, to not squander the rest of life on Earth to support us in the next few years. You know, that's what we've been doing. It's all about us. It's all about now. But where we're at right now, and the kids have a particularly strong voice to say, hey, the way we're going, by the middle of the 20th century, there will be no large-scale extraction of fish because they will have reached the point of no return. Commercial fishing, gone, because we didn't recognize the limits. Right now, half of the coral reefs, or maybe it's only 40%, but whatever it is, the loss of coral reefs from here to here in 50 years, it's not going to take another 50 years to eliminate them, all of them, unless we take some action right now, and take the pressure off the reefs. And it's not just the coral reefs, it's the mangroves, it's the seagrass meadows, it's the deep sea, it's the water column itself, it's all of nature. Treat it with respect and realize that everything we can do to restore places like Chesapeake Bay. We can't go back to what it was 100 years ago, let alone 400 years ago when John Smith arrived and the place, water was clear, there were crabs all over the place, the oysters were as big as dinner plates, they said, but they took 50, 60, 70 years old to get that big. They're gone. They're gone. An oyster is lucky to get to be 5 years old before it goes to market. But if you can find a live oyster in Chesapeake Bay at all. But there are some. We need to take the pressure off. Let them be oysters. Let them do their job as the filtration system. Menhaden, the fish that are so important as links in the food chain. Sunlight to phytoplankton, directly to menhaden that have the capability because of the way they're structured. They can feed directly on these microorganisms. And then the bigger creatures, the whales, the dolphins, the birds, the striped bass, the bluefish, they love to eat menhaden. But if we take the menhaden out, guess who goes hungry? All the other creatures. Yeah. So we don't have to take menhaden. We don't eat them anyway. We translate them to oil and fertilizer and cat food and food for farmed raised fish. We shouldn't be raising carnivorous fish anyway. We should be raising, if we raise fish to eat, we have to look, well, who eats plants out there? Catfish, tilapia, carp. And there are probably lots of others if we just start looking that can be adapted to grow fast, taste good, and eat plants. All the animals we have chosen to cultivate for food, they're all plant eaters naturally. But now we're force feeding them fish. I mean, it's such we just have to stop and rethink what we're doing to the only planet that we'll ever have as home.
Yeah, absolutely. And, with people like yourself and others who are advocating, especially informing the millennial and younger generation on these issues, I think there's great hope that, things will slowly get better. I think they have. And, hopefully the knowledge can be passed down and then used.
And passed up.
And passed up as well.
And
passed up.
The kids are learning so much because the knowledge is accessible now as never before. They need to teach the teachers. They need to teach the elders because their perspective and their capacity, you think about what are you doing as a teenager? Well, one thing you're doing is just surrounded by this almost this obligation to learn. And you've got this brain just cooking with this ferment of information. And it's critically important to make use of that. And not for a moment think that you have no power. You've got the power of knowing. And so
we are just about out of time here, but Dr. Sylvia Earle, thank you so much for being here, talking to us, and being such an inspiration in ocean protection and advocacy. We really appreciate it.
Well, we need to go out and get wet. No child left dry. And we need more submarines so we have access to the sea for everybody. I want to democratize access to the sea. And kids can be the leaders in this. Absolutely.
You've heard it from Dr. Sylvia Earle. Thank you so much, and thank you for tuning in.